Yo, what is going on, everybody? It's your boy Anubis, the Game Archer, with a brand new video for you guys today. So we got a discussion video. The gameplay is just backdrop as we have kind of a serious conversation. There's a lot going on in general when it comes to the world right now. Like you turn around and there's just something popping off. But in our space, the space of nerd culture, geek culture, gamers, fans who are of comic books, superhero movies, and things of that nature, we have our own drama on a constant basis. And the current drama going around right now is about the skin color of characters on House of Dragon, which is a Game of Thrones prequel, and Rings of Power, which is a Lord of the Rings prequel. And people have their opinions about both those shows, and some of those opinions are just that, opinions. People are allowed to dislike things. People are allowed to not feel connected towards stories or towards actors and things of that nature. However, with that, there's also people who base their opinions on I don't want to say racism, but they base it upon things that aren't necessarily about the show itself. They're not judging the show because the writing is bad, or the visual effects are bad, or the plot is bad, or the acting is bad. They're basing it just on the character's visual appearance, and that's it. And they're using their entire hatred of these shows on just that. And a lot of times when you see these conversations and you see like those posts where Amazon or some actors from the shows or HBO or George R.R. Martin are coming out and speaking out against the racism, you can keep on the comment section who's going, none of that even happens. Everyone who hates the show hates it because it's a bad show, and these studios are making up racism claims to hide the fact that their shows are bad. And it's like, those are some of the most delusional comments, because it's not true. Anyone who's on the internet, who's on social media, sees those exact comments and are aware of those exact comments. And a lot of times you just ignore it. And a lot of times you'll agree with it if you are on the same page as them. And me myself, I've seen those comments a lot, especially on Twitch. I've watched Twitch streamers and they'll have the discussion, and their chat would just be rolling off on everyone, basically saying that you shouldn't have Black actors or Latino actors or Asian actors in TV shows where those races don't exist. And then you have like the streamer say it breaks their immersion when they're watching House of Dragon and a Targaryen is black with dreads. And it's like, these are weird little conversations and topics that are not necessarily entirely racist, but do have a racist background, or would at least invoke some form of implicit bias and things of that nature. So what I want to talk about, other than just those are obvious things to mention, but my opinion on this entire situation is, what is it based on? A lot of people, when they have these discussions, they're telling you that it ruins the lore, it ruins the stories. It's there are no black elves and things like that. But it's like, most of these stories were written at a time period where it was common to leave out people of color. So they're a product of their time, and when something's a product of their time, you have to like take that into consideration and not just be like, the book says this. And it's like, okay, the book's allowed to say that, the book's allowed to show that, but it's a product of its time. Do you know Tolkien yourself? Do you know him personally? Do you know if he would hate House of Dragon? Not House of Dragon. Do you know that he would hate Rings of Power? Have you asked George R.R. Martin's opinion on the black actors being casted in House of Dragon? Or are you just saying these things out of your own ass? Because that happens a lot. A lot of that discourse is out of people's own backside. They'll tell you that Tolkien and wouldn't like that. And it's like, how do you know? Do you know him? Do you have him on speed dial? He's dead. He died in the 70s. And I don't mean that to be insulting to him and his family, because by all means, I am not trying to disrespect his family. And his family, could come out and say entirely that he never had a racist bone in his body. So therefore, and would say that he would enjoy, the Rings of Power as a show. And they have more validity in that comment than I do, than anyone on the internet does, because they're his family. A good portion of them, depending on their age, knew him as a person. I didn't know him as a person. Neither did you watch his video. You didn't know him as a person. You weren't alive, chances are. There's probably some people who are older who were alive when he was alive, but the guy wrote these books in the 40s and 50s. Those weren't like a very, mixed time period for humanity. And I made a tweet about this where I was like, I'd wager if Tolkien wrote the Lord of the Rings in the 21st century, it might just be Elder Scrolls. Like, Lord of the Rings might just be Elder Scrolls if it was written in a modern time period. He wouldn't have, I'm not gonna say, I feel like that would be, because he would see all these different races, being prevalent in society as the way they are nowadays. And I say Elder Scrolls because Elder Scrolls does have a very good way of structuring multiple races within a universe similar to Lord of the Rings. When it comes to the Akutans, also known as the Red Guards, they're black and they come from the island of Yakuta. And their island, started to, there's like wars going on, and the island started to sink, and so they all migrated towards what's called Hammerfell. And so their name went from Yakutans to Red Guards because their skin, for like better words, look reddish. So they just started calling them that. Then you have the Nords being, the hard struck, I guess you can say blue collar, whites of Elder Scrolls, and they're all part of Skyrim. You have, each elven race coming from multiple locations, and they all look different from each other. So basically what I'm trying to say is, multiple skin tones and races and groups exist in something like Elder Scrolls and other, forms of fictional literature. And they found ways to make it make sense. And within that, you have a lot of race mixing. You have like the Bretons, who are a mixture of elves and humans. And you can have that with these kind of franchises as well. Like the episode of Rings of Power, you go to this place called like New Moria and something like that. And I apologize if I butchered that name. I'm not a Lord of the Rings fan. Like, this is the first time I watched any Lord of the Rings show. I don't know if it's even the first show. I've seen the first 2 Hobbit movies, and that's it. I've never watched Lord of the Rings, never read the books, and that could take everything I say and throw away the entire video, and you'll probably look at the comments and be like, you didn't read the books, your opinion doesn't matter. It's my channel, it matters here. Your opinion matters for you. Who cares? Generally, though, what I'm trying to say when it comes to this location is it's an island nation. And when it comes to island nations throughout human history, there's always been a lot of mixing there, because island nations are, a key location for naval ships to land. So let's use the Western Hemisphere, for example. When it came to the Bahamas, when it came to the Caribbean islands, and it came to, Haiti and Dominican Republic and those locations, those were a hotbed for naval ships, be it pirates, be it the English, the French, whoever. They would all stop in those areas, and when you had freed slaves, and you had any natives who were in those areas, and you had these people from Europe who were staying there, and they're mixing and matching with the people who were already on those islands, you get these racially mixed groups. And I feel like that location in House of Power, in Reigns of Power, could be exactly just that, a location of just race mixing. You can have that. It's not like, when it comes to like the black elf, how do you get a black elf? Well, having a melanated skin is a science. It's not science fiction like the show is. It's a science. Your skin tone is an evolutionary trait based on where you live. Having darker skin is meant to protect you from the sun. So you can have elves who were born and raised and grew up in a location within the world that was exposed to a lot of sunlight and heat, and so they had that, the evolution had to give them melanated skin, and then they eventually just migrated around, kind of like how our ancestors migrated around, and now there's people of all ethnicities and races and religions, spread across the entire globe. Like, it generally doesn't make any sense to have as strong of opinions people have towards the skin tone of characters in TV shows. Because to me personally, I don't care what race anyone is. All I care about is how good is the acting, how good is the script, is a show good, is a show watchable, is it enjoyable, is it bad, is the acting bad? People should get their jobs based on how good they are at acting, not what their skin tone is. And you'll hear that comment from a lot of people who say, they shouldn't have these characters playing this character. I tell you, they should hire people based on acting and not having a forced diversity hire. I've heard that in someone's Twitch stream, calling it a forced diversity hire. I heard people say it's just studios being woke. And it's like, they can have whatever reason they have to why they hired someone. But me as a viewer, all I care about is, did the person playing the role deliver? And I get it. I get the idea of you can ruin immersion based on, reading a book, and the book describes to you a look, and the person in the TV show or the movie doesn't look like that. Or you play a video game and the video game shows you how this character looks. Then you see a movie or TV show and the character doesn't look like that. I get it. I get that it can throw you off. But for me, what reels me back in is, again, how good is the acting, and if the personality of that actor fits the character that they're playing. Example I'll give you, The Witcher. The Witcher TV series I've been very critical of. I haven't called it terrible. I think it's a good show, but I've been critical of it because I'm a massive Witcher fan. I read the books, play the games. The usual thing you'll hear someone say before they insult some form of media. They tell you that they have a background in that franchise, be it books or whatever. So when it came to The Witcher, I didn't like the casting choice for Trish Marigold because I felt like her hair wasn't red enough. I felt like she wasn't ginger enough, essentially. But that's not a good criticism, though. Even I acknowledge that's not a good criticism, and it took a friend of mine to like wake me up on that thought process that I'm criticizing this actress for what I think Trish should look like based on the video game and the books. And ironically, season 2 Witcher, the actress is very good. Season 1, she was just kind of but season 2, she's really good. And because of how good the acting was by her in Witcher season 2 of The Witcher, that thought process of this isn't Trish has left my brain. However, it still exists for Yennefer. And it's not that Yennefer's dark skin, even though in the game she's pale, dark hair with violet eyes. In the book, she's also described in that way. In the TV show, she's I think her actress is like British Indian. I think she's half British and half Indian origin, or she's of Indian ethnicity but British nationality, and that's not the problem with Yennefer's character. I'm okay with them not having a pale skin, dark haired, violet eyed character play Yennefer, because she fits 2 of those categories. She has dark hair, and they gave her purple eye contacts, so she fills 2 of those roles. But the acting isn't there. My disconnect with Yennefer in the show is the acting's not there. It's not to say that Anya is a bad actress. It's just what I know of Yennefer's personality based on playing the games, reading the books, doesn't fit what I'm seeing on my TV screen. I don't see that confidence that, I can do everything by myself without needing anyone else, kind of Yennefer that I see when I'm playing Witcher 3 or read the books. She seems very damsel in distress and kind of weak in the show. And maybe that's more of like a build-up thing. We're trying to like make her, appear as a, weaker character who develops into being what I see in the video games and in the books. That's also possible. My point is, it shouldn't be what someone looks like that dictates your opinion of a character, but how they portray the character that they're supposed to be playing as. Do they fit that character's personality? Did the special effects team do enough to make the purple eyes look like real purple eyes? Or does it look like obvious contacts? Those things matter. So no, it shouldn't break your immersion that there's a black elf or a black Targaryen. Now, again, I'll say this. If George R.R. Martin himself came out and said that the Targaryen shouldn't have anyone who isn't, of pale skin, then that's a fair criticism because it's his book. you know, and he's allowed to say what he wants about his own book. It's his creation, which is, again, I'll say, if Tolkien was still alive today and he saw House of Power, if he saw Rings of Power and say he doesn't like the way the characters look, that's valid because it's his story. However, again, I say, I don't think Tolkien would care. I don't think he would give a shit. And you shouldn't. You know? And if you're so angry towards the look of the character based on their complexion, their melanation, and that's more of an issue with you, not the show. You know, stop assuming that he would hate it because you hate it. You know, and I feel like you don't even know it, but you're insulting that person's legacy more so than the show is, because you're assuming that this person who has passed away would share your same hatred towards other people. And you might say, I'm not a racist though, I don't hate any people, I just want my literature and my TV shows to mix and be exactly the same. And to that I say, are you that way with every piece of content, literature? Because a lot of this also has a lot of hypocrisy in it. You know, a lot of times you hear people say it needs to be based entirely on the books and exactly how the books are. Is that true? Do you feel that same way about all forms of content, or just when it's a person of color? That question is a very big question. It makes a lot of sense, and I'll go back to talk about The Witcher. The Witcher is a Polish book about Polish folklore by a Polish writer. Same thing when it comes to the games. The show, however, casts a lot of British actors. So by default, the show is not following the literature because the characters should all be Polish. Everyone in that show should be a Polish actor. Henry Cavill is not Polish. Should they recast Henry Cavill? Should they recast the entire cast because none of them are Polish? Should every movie be that way? Should every movie recast everyone who's not the nationality of what the books tell us that they are? Should we stop hiring British actors who fake an American accent in movies? Should we stop hiring American actors who fake British accent in movies? You know, does your opinion say the same for all of those things, or is it just that way for people of color? Ask yourself that question before you decide to be like, I hate this show because the dude has white dreads while he's black, and Targaryens are supposed to be white in this fictional TV show. You know, and even when it comes down to like comparing, you know, books to television and movies and games, a lot of people who have that, who give out those complaints, who say it should be comic book accurate or novel accurate, they don't have that same thought process when it doesn't cater to their opinion. They'll sit there and tell you everything should be based on a comic book until a movie comes out that's based on a comic book, and they don't like those comic book like moments, so they say, hey, it's okay to have creative freedom and to not go entirely based on a source material. Those same people who tell you based on source material will tell you not to base on a source material because what you created isn't what they want to see. We see that with She-Hulk. She-Hulk is a comedic comic. She-Hulk is a very sexualized character in her comics. Her TV show is a comedy where she's pretty sexualized. She's going on dating apps. She's twerking. You know, these are things that, if you ever read her comics, seems plausible. In her comics, she dated a lot of characters. Numerous. She was a serial dater, including dating characters like Hercules and Iron Man and Juggernaut and Luke Cage. Like, she's been around the block. That's who her character is. You know, there's one comic where she literally jump ropes naked for basically a political stunt, not for politics itself, but because there's this thing in that time period called the Comic Code where they're trying to censor comics. So to make fun of that idea of censoring comics, She-Hulk was doing these things where she would jump rope naked, but not actually naked. You know, she will wear like this, like a bikini that didn't have straps. So while she jump rope, you can't see that she's actually naked when she's not. She also had a part in her comics where she broke a photocopier because she was trying to get pictures of her ass. The TV show is very close to how the comics are, but it's hated because of that. Because people don't want a comedic female character. And you'll get people who's like, oh, it's not that, it's just a bad show. The writing is bad, the script is bad, the acting's bad. And again, the opinions are opinions. If you don't feel like the acting is good, that's you. But there's also people who might like it. There's a lot of people out there who might like what you don't like, and that's okay. You gotta get that in your head. Does everyone? A lot of people right now in 2022 have main character syndrome, where they think they are what matters in all society. It's okay for things not to be for you. It's okay for you to not like something. It's okay for people to like things that you don't like. It's okay for showrunners and video games, TV shows to, change up some things and when they create their some shows. I said before in a lot of my older videos when it came to the Halo TV show, I personally would rather watch a movie or TV show that gives me a new perspective on on the source material than just copy paste it, because at that point, why would I watch it? I played the game, I know the story. I read the book, I know the story. Why would I want to watch a show on something that I already know? I know I like it better when it's expanded, which is why I also enjoyed the first three Resident Evil movies. The other ones are bad, in my opinion. There's people out there who might like the other ones as well. But for me, I just like the first three. They were a different take on the universe of Resident Evil, and I enjoyed them for what they were. I have friends who enjoy Transformers. Meanwhile, there's a lot of you out there who think those movies are all terrible. That's okay from both of those standpoints. This is just a long rant, and I know a lot of y'all probably checked out and was like, oh, I'm not watching this shit. You're probably gonna watch the first 2 minutes and know what the video's about, and then comment and say woke this and social justice warrior that. Have at it. I think the idea of labeling people is stupid. Even when it comes to like racism, I feel like if you constantly call things racist, it dilutes the actual meaning of the word and is overused. Just like calling things woke is overused. Just like calling things MAGA is overused. Just like calling people anti-vax is overused. Just like saying social justice warrior is overused. It's all overused labels. Everything is on a spectrum. And I'm very open about where I'm at. I'm not a liberal, not a Republican, not a Democrat. I'm not on the left or the right of the spectrum. I think the idea of a two-party system is dumb. So that should tell you where I lie when it comes to any of that kind of stuff, when it comes to get someone a label. I'm not woke. I have a video on my channel that talks about blind wokeness. I'm not a social justice warrior. I'm just a dude who likes video games. A dude who likes archery. A dude who thoroughly enjoys what I've been watching on TV the last few months. Be it The Rings of Power. Haven't watched House of Dragon yet. Maybe I will. Be it She-Hulk. Be it Miss Marvel and Hawkeye. Be it The Expanse. Doesn't matter what it is. I've watched, I'm very picky, but a lot of shows I've watched, I've enjoyed. The Boys, I've enjoyed. For the most part. The Boys comic actually sucks, which is also like one of the things that comes like comparing, a TV show or movie to a comic book or a movie, or, to a novel. Sometimes it goes the other way, where the book sucks and the show is good, because the Boys comic book is pretty terrible, but the show is pretty good. And it's like, I just think a lot of y'all need to be a little bit more open-minded, and also stop hiding your prejudices behind, it's not based on the book correctly. Hiding, you're unintentionally or intentionally insulting the writer of those books by assuming they wouldn't appreciate or like where the series is now. Again, I fully want people to ask Token and his family. I'm sorry if I pronounced his last name wrong. I invite people to ask his family, because I'm pretty sure he still has like some descendants that are around. He only died in 1973. He probably got like some grandkids, some kids, some great nieces and great nephews who are around, who could tell you, he would have liked Rings of Power. He would have liked Lord of the Rings. And remember back when Lord of the Rings first came out, they got heavily criticized by that community. They didn't like Peter Jackson's take on the franchise. Even so much so, the Tolkien estate didn't like Lord of the Rings, but Tolkien estate does like Ring of Power. So it's like there's this weird thing where, the fans are irrelevant in this conversation, in my opinion. That's the moral of this video. Your opinion when it comes to the skin color of characters in TV shows and movies and video games doesn't matter. It only matters to the people who wrote those stories. If they're not alive to tell you that they don't like it, shut the fuck up. If they're not allowed to tell you that they do like it, you can at least combat the people who are saying that they don't like it. I will openly, like, if there's a time machine, someone go back in time and ask him what he would think. Preferably in the 70s, when, you know, he's a little older and we're starting to see the race mixing, you know, really taking center stage in our society, not in the 40s and 50s where, you know, there's still way more prejudices than there are now. You know, it wasn't that long ago. You know, my mom was like 70, she was born like 72, 70, 73 maybe. So Tolkien died in the same time frame my mother was born. I'm 30. So this is not like it was like 100 years ago or 200 years ago, 300 years ago. Modern society is young and it's still growing, it's still improving. But I don't want to keep you guys too long. This is already a long little rant video. But just the moral of the story is, if you have opinions that are border on the racial nature, don't bring in the writers of these books or these TV shows or video games or comics to defend your point, because chances are they might even agree with you. You know, if your opinion and your points are, you know, borderline prejudice or borderline racist, things of that nature, that's on you and you alone. And it doesn't make people woke or social justice warrior to, you know, disagree with you. It's okay if people disagree with you. If you want to disagree with me, feel free. You have that right. You know, I'm okay with people not agreeing with me. There are 7 million people on this planet. I'm not trying to make any of those people happy. The only person on the planet I care about making happy is myself. And that's basically it. Everyone else, make yourself happy. I don't care about validation on the internet. I know, ironically, because I'm a content creator. Because I should, maybe. But I don't care. I don't care about validation on the internet. So I don't care if this video gets a ton of dislikes and a ton of comments, you know, giving me all these freaking labels. But I will say this. If Stan Lee was still alive, he would definitely probably enjoy She-Hulk. How do I know that? Because he freaking wrote the comics. And again, I described what her comments were like. You know, Stan Lee had a cameo in Deadpool where he played a DJ at a strip club. It's not like Stan Lee's on a series going, "Oh, this is too raunchy for Marvel." Deadpool exists under his wing. So it's not like he would be like, "Oh, I'm appalled." And you get these comments, people are like, "She-Hulk is anti-man." I'm a dude. I have not felt like this show is attacking me at all. Like, it's just so weird that the dialogue you hear on the internet when it comes to like what it is they hate about these shows. Again, if you think that the acting's bad, feel free. My hands are raised right now. You can't see it. Feel free. If you think the writing is bad, cool. If you think the budget is not being used correctly, if you think that the visual effects is bad, cool. That's all based on you as a person and things of that nature. I'm just saying, it's not about, you shouldn't make it about person's skin toning and try to hide your prejudice or, you know, implicit bias or even like a little bit of teensy bit of closet racism behind, you know, it breaks my immersion to see a black dude with dreads who's a Targaryen. A fictional person. It's all fictional to begin with. Like, it's literally just all fictional. Me personally, I wouldn't even care. Like, if I was watching a TV show and someone who I'm used to being different color or different race is a different color and different race or different gender for that show, I wouldn't even care. Because all I care about is it good? Is it?